That Great Business Show. Winner, highly commended award. Irish Podcast Awards.
Welcome to episode 201 of That Great Business Show, the only business podcast packed with tips, insights, and opportunities on every episode. We are the perfect length for your 5K walk, your 10K run, or just while you're watching the kids play their games. You can also hear us on board Aer Lingus Long Haul, where we are their proud podcast partners. I'm Conal Moran, Fáilte. I wasn't the only one who was amazed by Angela Quinlan's incredible business that we featured on episode 200. Lots and lots of feedback about her and her fabulous business. She founded her company that has bought 33,000 BlackBerry patents previously owned by the tech company for $170 million. Now she's busy sweating those patents as hard as she can, including a few she called Rembrandts in the Attic, gold nugget patents she didn't know she had bought. And if you haven't heard it, do listen back, episode 200. And by the way, she's hiring. In business, controlling costs is essential. That includes your business fleet's fuel costs. Maxall, a family-owned business since 1920, are big supporters of That Great Business Show. Maxall fuel cards offer tailored solutions for transport fleets of all sizes, delivering efficient fuel cost management for your business at over 700 service stations nationwide. The Maxall dedicated fuel card team wants to hear from you at maxall.ie/fuel cards. On this episode, we have two very different types of businesses, but they do have a common thread. If you have ever thought of creating a product, well, where would you start? One of our featured companies is making world-beating socks. Yes, they come with a secret sauce. We'll get into that. And the other is a medtech device based in Galway that aims to cure a condition affecting the majority of post-menopausal women, a market worth billions of dollars worldwide. Now, Lorcan Healy is a tall lad. He has to be. This 24-year-old is goalie with League of Ireland team Shelbourne. He's also a graduate in health and performance science, as well as having a marketing master's from UCD Smurfit. Put all of the above together, and you get the makings of a sports apparel business called Eos Elite. I see Eos Elite branded vests on runners all over the place, which would suggest that Lorcan and his team are very successful. But sports apparel is a very busy and very tiny niche, really, with lots and lots of rival brands, which prompts me to ask, how do you make that business stand out? Well, let's ask the big fella how he does it. Lorcan Healy, welcome to That Great Business Show.
Thank you very much, Conal. Pleasure to be here. And it's a great question. It's the challenge we experience every single day. And I think what we found over the last 2 years is creating a community. It's tough as an e-commerce brand to create a real community and connection with the customer base, but that's central to getting our name out there. And I think
But you're creating this community, and lots of others are. I remember I've interviewed Gym Plus Coffee 2-3 times, I can't remember now. They started off with the same idea. So that's another brand that you're challenging, if you like. How do you build that community?
I think the biggest decision that came into this was my first hire, which was Simon Feeney, who's been with us basically from the start. And he's our full-time marketing and events manager. I tasked him with this exact task in terms of getting the product out there. And the power of social media has driven us completely. This is an e-commerce brand, and we have grown our social media following to 17.3 thousand followers. And the key to that really is at the beginning, we were just saying, look at our products. These are our products. But actually, no one's really interested in just the product. So we had to think about what value can we bring in our content. And as we progressed, that just drew more and more people to our social media. And then we were able to step in to run clubs and partnerships and actually meet people who had heard about us after we built that audience.
But if they're not interested in the product, that's the massive challenge. Isn't the whole point of what you're trying to do is to make product that people want to buy? But if they're not interested, it's kind of a circular going the wrong way.
It is exactly. I think this day and age, if you Google any product on the internet, there will be multiple different versions of exactly the same product.
I did exactly that with your product.
So our question was, how do we stand out? Which I guess goes back to your question. And I think really going back, look, I have an English accent, but I'm firmly Irish and it's an Irish brand. Going back to our Irish roots and talking about the story of why we're here. This isn't just creating a product and trying to sell it to make money. Eos Elite is essentially an extension of myself. We want to empower people's performance to improve, whether they're playing in the Premier League on a Saturday or trying to run a 5K. So that is completely authentic to our own personal values of myself and Simon and the rest of the team. So I think that comes across in the content, and when we do events and partnerships, that has kind of just snowballed to more and more people going, okay, so I'd rather buy a running vest off you. We are absolutely solving a problem. If you go out anywhere in any city, anywhere in Ireland, and look at runners, they're all well, not all of them anymore, but lots of them are running around holding their phones. So if you go back to the original problem we're solving with the running vest, that is it. But then there's lots of different solutions. So we've really gone for the community and value behind the brand, creating that decision for people to come to Eos Elite.
But you're making me tired, and I'll tell you why, and not being rude, the amount of time that you must go to events. Now, remember, you are also a goalie for a League of Ireland team, and there's the actual business to run, and, like, it's a big time investment.
Efficiency and effectiveness, 2 words that I live by. And again, this comes back to Simon. He's a fantastic first hire for us 2 years ago, and he's extremely extroverted. I'm a little bit more introverted. So we have clear roles. Obviously, we have a very, very busy schedule.
How many hours a day do you work?
I work on the business. I get home generally at 1:30, and I work all the way through until...
From training?
From training, yes.
So it's not 1:30 in the morning?
No, 1:30, unless it's an away game, which I am. So I wake early in the morning. I wake up about 6:30 and I do an hour and a half of work, what I call firefighting. You wake up and you can have lots of emails, lots of things to firefight. So I sort that out and I already have my week planned. So then when I come home about 1:30, I work through, depending really, whether my girlfriend says, right, we need to have dinner and I need to see you. So between 6 p.m. and sometimes it could be 11 p.m. to make up. It doesn't feel like work because there's just absolute joy. And as I said, building that audience that snowballs, getting really great feedback from people and going to social media and even looking out the window when I'm driving to training and seeing Eos everywhere.
Which we do. I mean, I have seen it myself frequently. That must be joy.
That is, and I actually have a funny story around this. I don't know, it almost seems magical, but over the last 2 years, there's been plenty of tough moments, really difficult moments. But it seems that every time I've been driving along in a really difficult moment with the business, an Eos vest just pops up out of nowhere. I don't know what it is, but it gives you that buzz of, we're doing something great here. People like what we're doing and people are wearing what we're producing.
And you set up the company when you were 22?
Yes. So I started when I was 21 and launched officially when I was 22, yes.
And there is no history that I'm aware of business in the family because your dad is
He is a solicitor and also High Court judge.
And a coroner, did you tell me?
And a coroner as well. So he has 3 jobs.
And your mum?
She went back to university when we were younger to do a master's in neuroscience. So she lectures in neuroscience.
So no business at all. So what prompts you to decide to go off and spend, what did you say to me, 18 hours a day working?
It was a decision from a very young age. I wanted to be a professional footballer, 0.1% make it to become a professional footballer. So I always had the dream that I needed to continue my education, which I did. But with that continued education through my A-levels in the UK and then my degrees in UCD, I set the goal to have a professional football career and a business by the age of 30. I set this goal at around 18 years old. Now it's happened a little bit earlier than anticipated.
What's wrong with you, though? I mean, that's not normal. I look at people. I was actually watching that young fella playing tennis in Wimbledon, and I'm thinking, where did I go wrong? And you, at 18, you set all these goals for yourself.
Yeah, because I mean, from the age of 11, really, I've just been solely focused on becoming a professional footballer. The amount of work that comes into that, every single part of your day, you're thinking about it. I missed out on a huge amount in my youth. I'm still young, but in my youth, I'm not going to parties and everything like that, whilst trying to juggle my studies. So I'm constantly used from the age of, I can't remember, juggling studies, which have a lot of pressure, and football. So you finish football at 1 o'clock in the day. You have half a day. I wouldn't be able to sit there looking at the TV for half a day. I'd go mad. So I think that kind of, along with my character and what's happened over the last 15 years of my life, it's really, I had no other option. Otherwise, I'd be pulling my hair out going, what do I do with the second half of my day?
And go back to the business, though. Where are you going to bring it? What are you going to do with it? Because let's go through some of the big names. Adidas, Nike, you choose it. They're all looking at you saying, let's squash this little fly.
Absolutely. And the bigger we get, the bigger the companies that notice us and organisations, which we do take as a compliment. But the dream is really, look, we're in the UKI market. We do extend to, sort of rarely to America. We do have orders to America. So we've essentially taken a slightly different view on performance. We haven't gone down the Gymshark sort of apparel route in terms of clothing.
What does that mean? You haven't gone down the Gymshark route?
So in terms of leggings and stuff you'd wear to the gym, a fashion clothing.
But is that a yet or is that...
No. That's not what we're doing. That's a purely saturated market, in my opinion. Look, there's lots of Irish companies doing that and lots of new companies trying it. But
Peachy Lean being one of them. She's been on with me twice, I think.
Exactly. And they have really unique selling points, but it doesn't line up with what we do. The two words that describe us is empowering, performance, and innovation is the key to what we do. And it's not just innovation in the product, but it's the way we approach the product and the way we approach the market.
And that is a perfect segue to find out the big secret. You're going to reveal the big secret about your socks.
So they're not just any old socks, and they're very small silicone grips on the sole of the socks. Now, this isn't a new invention. It's been around for approximately 9 years. It started in America. But essentially what these little grips on the bottom of your socks do is, I'm going to be very sciencey for a second, but they double the static coefficient of friction, which is essentially the stickiness, which stops your foot moving in the shoe. So imagine for example, the Euros final last night. Imagine one of the players bursting up the wing and he goes to change direction. Now, generally his foot with normal socks will slip ever so slightly in the shoe, a tiny, tiny, tiny bit. With the grips, his foot doesn't slip at all. So from early stage research, it looks like these grips improve your change in direction by 4%. So you can change direction.
That's substantial, I presume. Is it 4%?
A huge amount. So the research is early stages, and we have something we'll announce towards the end of this year as part of our innovative project, backed by Enterprise Ireland and also working with UCD. But these sorts of numbers are astronomical. Grip socks have been in the market for 10 years.
So what are your ones doing differently? Or are they?
So essentially, we're going to be, I can't go into too much detail about it, but we'll be the first scientifically profiled sock. And I mean, the difference is grip socks have been around for years. The difference with our own socks is, this is my own experience, one of the reasons I started the business is they use, being too harsh on the other brands, but these use awful polyester acrylic materials.
I know them well, and they're horrible, yeah.
And they're horrible, and your toe ends up going out the end after 5 washes. So I got fed up with this over my long football career so far. And we put in 12 months of work going through 8 different samples to find the perfect material that is both breathable and durable and comfortable. So we have fortunately more than 10,000 users, and the feedback we get from everyone is the comfiest socks they've ever worn. So this combined with the well-known grips. Now, what's actually slightly different with our grips compared to the majority of companies is we only put the grips on the touch points of your sole and the shoe. So this doesn't mean there's any unnecessary friction on parts of your foot that would actually cause a blister, because these are also anti-blister socks because your feet aren't moving. So it's a beautiful shape that follows the main contact points of your foot in the shoe.
And as we speak, there are people down in China or somewhere about to produce the exact same sock. No?
Absolutely. So this is where the question of innovation comes in, because it's not a patentable design. We can't patent it. And we knew that going in here as well. And this is actually going to segue of another reason why we started the business. This is moving back 2.5 years. I noticed, fortunately, UCD, I was friends with lots of sports people in the Gaelic football world, hurling, camogie, everything. And the biggest issue, I used to watch them train, and they would all be wearing white socks, blue socks, completely different coloured socks. And there was no GA designed socks, and that classic GA design of the hoops around the top of the shoe and the two colours. So that was actually our first USP, bringing out socks with a Gaelic football, hurling, camogie design that you could wear. Let's say you play for Kilmacud Crokes. Finally, you could wear grip socks, which are Kilmacud Crokes colours. So your purple and your yellow. So that was actually the first USP. That's nothing to do with the socks. That's purely design.
And when that niche is then full, what happens next?
Exactly. So we were one of the first. I know there's plenty of companies, which is a great sign. We were one of the first. It means there's a market there.
They're eating your lunch.
So this is the fortunate side about my football career. Fortunately, we've got our socks within the first 6 months, our socks were worn by Premier League footballers, Irish rugby players, inter-county Gaelic football players and hurlers, and camogie players. So we have got our socks to the elite level of sport, gone through 8 different iterations of the product. So we can now stand up against any grip socks brand in the world and confidently say, we believe we're the best sock for durability and for what it provides in terms of reducing blisters and improving your change of direction, purely based on our feedback and access to this elite sports network.
And if you are being endorsed by rugby players and Premier League players, etc., there's a cost. They're professional. They're not doing that for free, are they?
So this is interesting. This is the thing. So we actually add value, which is, again, there was a real problem of poor quality grip socks on the market. So we didn't go saying we were on agreement and you're going to say this about the product. Our approach is simply, with these athletes, let us give you a pair of socks. You wear them. This is what we've done. This is my story as a professional footballer. This is my experience. This is what we've done differently. Try them out in training. See how they feel. And every single time they come back to us saying, wow, I can only wear those socks. So I've had phone calls from Premier League footballers saying...
Go on, name names.
I can name one, which is Nathan Collins. He called me, contacted me, I think on the Tuesday before the season started last year, saying, I've run out of socks. I need socks to play against Arsenal on Saturday. Can you get them to me? I almost threw them over myself. But that sort of thing shows there is a difference to us, because we can obviously say there's a difference. But when we're hearing it from elite athletes playing at the top level of sport and dying for socks for the weekend, we know we're going in the right direction.
But I presume that, and I don't know because I certainly don't play professional sport, is that are they not just given kits, as much kit as they need, and therefore that's another problem for you to overcome, is that you're trying to get past the kit man, as they're probably still called, are they?
They absolutely are. So this is how quickly sport has changed, and again, the benefit of me being in sport. So back 10 years ago, everybody wore the socks they were given, pulled them up to the knee, and it was great. Whereas now, if you watch any football game, you'll actually notice that all of the players are wearing almost these leg warmers, for lack of a better word.
I did notice this, yeah.
Exactly. And then the white socks underneath are their choice of socks. Because if you're training in a certain pair of socks during the week, you don't want to suddenly go to a match day and wear these completely different socks, which are generally horrible quality, extremely thick, polyester and nylon, and they're absolutely awful. So this was the birth of players wearing different socks, and this created the market we're in.
I will never look at a football match in the same way again. So those are your socks, and you're going to have a big reveal. Did you say at the end of the year about something completely different? Or?
Yes, the end of the year, an insight which will be completely innovative and essentially groundbreaking.
So now on to your vests. And as I mentioned, I did Google the vests, and there are a lot of them around, and they look very similar. What have you done differently on the vests?
Absolutely. The first step we looked at is, how can we improve this vest? How can we improve the vests that are out there? Again, it's not a brand new product. As a bootstrap company, we can't go and spend $200,000 on R&D. We have to do it our own way. So we looked and we got a little bit of feedback, bought some of these vests. And what turned out was essentially it helps you carry your phone, your water bottle, and your keys, rather than leaving your keys under a stone outside the front door. We've all done that at some point. And the problem with all these other vests, if you watch any of the marathons, is the phones are bouncing around, hitting people in the chin, and they're really poorly designed. So as someone who has to run in the off season, I don't enjoy it, but I do have to run. I am a semi-experienced runner over short distances only. And that was a key problem, that we looked at all the feedback that other companies had and said, right, so if we're going to make a vest, it's going to be completely unnoticeable. So you're carrying your keys, your water bottle, and your phone without even noticing. So that was our goal. So we went to the drawing board and designed a vest that weighs 135 grams only. The pocket is
4
part.
ounces.
Yes,
In
exactly.
old money. Yeah.
In old money, I actually
Maybe it's
don't know
5
the
ounces,
version.
yeah.
Around that. Very light. And the phone pocket is part of the vest. So your phone, once it's zipped up, is tight to your body and it doesn't bounce around. Achieving what we set out to achieve is you're running with your essentials without even noticing.
But again, there are people in various countries who are just sitting there and saying, "Oh, there's another design. Yeah, that looks interesting. Yeah, we'll do one of those." And it must be maddening to see all of your, I will call it your IP just being nicked like that.
I think it was out there. I mean, we didn't come up with the running vest. It was out there and we knew this. So again, we had to innovate through our brand. And as we built traction and as we built extremely positive customer experience, especially in Ireland, because a lot of people speak in Ireland, there's a lot of word of mouth that people started to trust us. We started being able to spend more on advertising to get across to more and more people. So the way we actually innovated and capitalized is we ensured the product was great, but ultimately we're competing against people who are just trying to make money on running vests. They're not a brand. And as a result, they don't build big audiences and connect with a group of people like we have done. So we knew we had to bring something special in terms of the brand. And we've done that, again, as an e-commerce brand. We've done that largely through social media. And now we do more and more events and collaborations to really get our sort of network into the community. And fortunately, when people meet us, we're basically meeting ourselves. It's people who love exercise, people who love sport, people who love trying to improve themselves. So I think that really resonates. And that was our goal, to try and get that to resonate with our audience. If you look at our digital ad strategy, it was something that we knew we had to focus on because that's 95% of our sales.
Is it?
So we knew we had to be really good at that. And that's where Simon's expertise, he has a degree in marketing. I have a master's in marketing. So we brought that together. And again, this was how we're going to stand out from the crowd, along with our elite sports network. And hopefully being a little bit personable and knowing what our customers want, because we are our customers.
Instagram. You use Instagram a lot.
A lot. We have, it's probably our largest platform, and it's something we found is the best way to connect with people. You have TikTok these days, which of course we're on every single social media platform.
Do you use Twitter or X at all?
We have it, but it's not really, if you look at Ryanair, there was a certain marketing strategy for Twitter or X, as it's known now. That doesn't quite fit in with what we're doing at the moment. We have an account. So we largely use Instagram and TikTok, which we post at least once a day on. And then LinkedIn.
More work, but at least that's Simon. Is that what you said?
That's Simon. So this was the key hire with Simon. And we have an intern at the moment who just creates a huge amount of content. Because again, at the beginning, we're going, how do we create valuable content every single day?
And what do you call valuable content in this context?
So obviously we empower performance. So we need to have content based around helping people to empower performance. They can't just be constantly photos of socks and photos of vests, because they've seen them all lots of different times. So we need to find, first of all, entertaining content, whether that's some sort of football challenge, which is just entertaining to watch, or a way to improve in football, a football drill, or advice running tips. So we speak to run clubs and people who are more expert in running than us. And we said, what's your tips? So let's say they started running a year ago. How did you get from 0 to a half marathon? And sharing that information on our platform is exactly what our customers want, and it's what they need. And it's what we're there to do. We're not just here to sell a product. We're trying to empower their performance and improve them. Again, whether they're just trying to run a 5K or they're playing in the Six Nations on the weekend.
And at some stage, presumably, that kind of runs out of road as well, when you've had all of the tips and what's next?
It has to be a little bit secretive in terms of plans.
I've hit something good. I didn't know this.
Initially, was public now. We have partnered with Breast Cancer Ireland on a pink running vest.
I saw it.
And
it's got BCI, is that right? Yeah.
Exactly. So the Breast Cancer Ireland logo with our logo, mainly for the Very Pink Run. So we'll be launching the actual products. We announced it about a week ago. We're launching the actual product at the end of this month, and 20% of sales will go towards Breast Cancer Ireland. The idea really came from feedback, actually, from one of our customers who just contacted us out of nowhere, telling us of a really inspirational story of recovery from cancer, and actually the importance of the vest in that role, in terms of the certain things she needed to take out on her walks and her runs as she put up to running again. So it was actually a really heartwarming story. And we kind of sat down and said, look, we're having a lot of traction with these running vests. At what point can we give something back? Is there something that might work here? And that's where we started our steps earlier this year, contacting Breast Cancer Ireland. And obviously they have the Very Pink Runs, I think 3 of them it is, at the end of August, beginning of September. So we thought it was a great opportunity to do something for charity, and also help a lot of people who'll be running holding their phones. So finally they'll be able to hold their phones in a safe way and bring some water with them.
Are you going to bring out any other innovative product?
So again, we have to keep slightly quiet on those things. Towards the end of the year, we will look to innovate and head westwards to America.
Oh yeah.
We'll be looking...
Big place.
A very, very big place and a very big challenge. We're keeping that very much under wraps as that's part of our research project. But people will see more and more. Obviously, we tell our story through social media, so at the right times, we'll tell them more and more.
Bricks and mortar, will you ever go that direction? We're
actually having discussions at the moment with a certain number of retailers, because obviously we've gone completely e-commerce. It's fantastic because we can speak to our customers, we can build that community, that relationship. It's also difficult because you have to make every single sale to each individual. So we're having discussions with a couple of large retailers in Ireland because there's a lot of interest. There's no running vests in these shops. There's no running vests in Lifestyle. There's no running vests in Elvery's.
Really?
Which is very, very interesting because there's a huge gap for them. So we've proved it with more than 10,000 people that they like the product. We've innovated. We've gone through different samples. So it's something we're happy to come to the table and speak to people about.
And the product, I presume, is not made in Ireland, either your socks or your vest, I presume, outsourced.
So we make them in Asia, but also in Europe. I think a key thing is keeping it as close to Ireland as possible. I mean, if you can make socks in Ireland, I spoke to the Irish Sock Society, a brilliant company in Galway recently.
Oh, we had them on.
Oh, brilliant. And I said if they are ever looking to do some sort of factory in Ireland, we'd definitely look into it.
I think they're made in Spain or Portugal, I think.
Portugal, I think it is, yeah. So we source half our stuff in Europe and half our stuff in Asia. I mean, the textile industry in China is fantastic. It's absolutely brilliant.
Did you go out there?
We're heading out there in November, which is
more
exciting.
Time. Who are you meant to be playing in November?
So that's when I have my 4 weeks off. So we'll be heading out there.
Isn't it funny that you have to kind of...
it's scheduled far out in advance. But their ability to create exactly what we want, we play with the percentage of materials, and we've some really, really good relationships with our suppliers out there. And also our suppliers across Europe. We have a supplier in Poland. And it's actually fantastic having people in Europe because it's so close to home. I mean, the shipping times are a lot quicker as well. So we're trying to bring everything as close to home as possible. If we could do things in Ireland, we absolutely would. Maybe one day.
2 final questions. One is, what does success look like for you, say, 3 to 5 years?
I think we can only quantify that. If you'd asked me that a year and a half ago, I would have given you financial numbers, revenue, and of course that's part of it. But I think as time goes on, the more Eos vests we see out and about, I think that's how we quantify.
You have to make money.
We have to make money, but that will come with more and more people across the UK and Ireland. I mean, we'd like to hit 1 million customers in the next 3 to 5 years, without a doubt, across the UK and Ireland, expand to Europe. We're looking at Germany and America. So I think success is for me to be in the middle of London in 3 years' time and have the same exposure to Eos running vests and socks as I do in Dublin at the moment.
And get the phone call from Nike to say, we'll buy you.
Possibly. I might be too attached to the brand at that point. I mean, it really is an extension of myself and I have a very strong connection to the brand. It's not made up values. It truly is who I feel I am as a person and wanting to help other people. So, I mean, that'd be a great phone call to have. Absolutely. My phone's off silent if anyone wants to call. But no, it's a brand that's so close to me that anything that happens in the next 5 to 10 years, it will be very, very careful steps.
Final question we ask everybody. Who would Lorcan Healy hire in a heartbeat?
It's a very tough question. I think, thinking about it, I think someone like Niall Quinn, something that professional sport gives you is an elite mindset, which is almost unmatched. I mean, as I said, 0.1% make it to professional football to have a successful career like Niall Quinn has. He has that elite high-performance mindset, and then he's moved into business and obviously been very successful as well. So someone with hopefully a similar mindset. I haven't achieved 1% of what he's done in his career, but I think someone like that coming to the business could really drive it forward, and obviously understanding business as well.
He's a very nice guy. I met him once, I think, and he's a particularly nice guy, as is his daughter, who's also a young lady who is in business. I can't remember what business she's in, but I think I was hoping to have her on the podcast. But there's business in that family. Absolutely.
I actually remember, I've never met him in person, but he watched my first home game for UCD when he was the interim CEO of the FAI. So that was going back about 5 years now. So I think I saw him in the stand from about 100 metres away, but I've never actually met him in person, but who knows?
Niall, there's a man here who would like to have a chat.
Absolutely. If
That's
possible.
Lovely. Lorcan Healy, come back to us at the end of the year when you're going to make all of these announcements, and we'll give you the oxygen of publicity. Thank you so much for joining us on That Great Business Show.
That Great Business Show.
Maxol, a family-owned business since 1920, has introduced Maxol HVO Pro, a low-carbon emissions fuel, to their network. This low-carbon emission fuel can play a key role as part of your business's sustainability strategy. Available at selected locations nationwide for fuel card customers, Maxol HVO Pro is 100% renewable biodiesel with up to 90% lower carbon emissions. It's compatible with most newer diesel engines and is recommended for fleet vehicles. Visit maxol.ie/HVO Pro for more information.
De facto, the revolutionary shaving oil, changing the face of shaving. For the smoothest shave of your life, just add water. No more lathering up or cleaning up afterward. Just add a few drops of water and you're ready to go. De facto's blend of all natural oils hydrates and protects your skin. Perfect for all skin types and lasts so much longer than traditional foams or gels. De facto, a shaving revolution. Just add water. Available from selected pharmacies and from defactoshave.com.
That Great Business Show. Winner, highly commended award. Irish Podcast Awards.
We were talking about the benefits of the clustering of businesses with Stephen Barry Hannon on episode 200. Clusters are geographic concentrations of interconnected companies, specialised suppliers, service providers, and associated institutions in a particular field. Think of medtech down in Galway. If I'm right, my next guest, Brian Ledwith, is a beneficiary of clustering. Looking at his CV, Brian has worked with a number of big-name medtech companies that are clustered between Athlone and Galway. A mechatronic engineer by training, he's now CEO of Galway-based medtech company Avita Medical that has developed a technology to treat vaginal atrophy, a progressive and chronic condition that affects 80% of women over the age of 51. It's a multi-billion-dollar market worldwide, and Avita Medical is raising funds on the Spark crowdfunding platform to go global. Brian Ledwith, welcome to That Great Business Show.
Thank you so much, Colin. Pleasure to be here, and thank you for inviting me to speak today.
You're very, very welcome. Now, tell me about the clustering, because clustering is just a good thing. And are you a beneficiary of clustering? I looked at your CV on LinkedIn, and you have popped from one medtech company to another, from, as I mentioned, Athlone to Galway. And where better could you be?
Absolutely. I mean, Galway has been a hub and a cluster for medtech development. And yes, definitely have been a beneficiary of there. I started in Boston Scientific in 2003, and from there have been able to leap into other areas of industry, going from process development into R&D, where I really wanted to be, and being able to move up through the ranks in R&D to directorship and now CEO of an R&D facility and company. But in terms of the infrastructure within the Galway region, it's been fantastic in terms of the ability to set your goals and be able to use that clustering to get where you need to be.
What is a mechatronic engineer?
Mechatronics is, when I did mechatronics, it was back in 1999 when I started the course, and it was the first year of that course to be completed. It was a combination of mechanical engineer and electronic engineer. And from my perspective as a 18-year-old going to college, at the time of that transition, I understood that mechanical and electronics were the way of the future. And that course inspired me to get fruition of both mechanical and electronic experience. You
must have been a very bright 18-year-old if you were able to work all of that out.
Well, it was always my background. My background had always been engineering focused in terms of hobbies and interests. And so it was natural progression into mechatronics. Thankfully, that was a course that was available. Before that, there were two separate courses. You either went down the electronic route or you went down the mechanical route. So I was lucky at the time point that was a course that was developed and in DCU.
And you mentioned there that you were working with some big name international or multinational companies like Boston Scientific. Would it not have been better for you career-wise to stick with one of those huge multinationals where you would never know where it might bring you?
Absolutely. And in a way, I suppose I was on that pathway, as I mentioned, going from graduate engineers all the way up to functional managers and senior managers with Type Electronics, which was a medical company that acquired Craig Anna at the time. But I always had an entrepreneurship focus. I had utilised some of those skills in prior areas, but I found the beauty here is the stepping stones that I had been able to step on along the way. You were able to kind of bring all that into fruition in where I am now, in terms of understanding product development, process development, financial models, and then into commercial, and the ability to interact with people and get the best out of people to be able to enable you to bring all those functions together. So really, the benefit for me was, yes, the multinationals are fantastic. You get a huge grounding and experience and foundation of each faculty, let's call it, in terms of whether it's process development or R&D. But the startup business, I think, pulls all that together and brings you into areas that you may not get the chance to do under a multinational, because they have SMEs in those areas that would kind of boundary those areas to themselves. So for me, it was the benefit of being able to be a part of the full life experience of product development through clinical trials into commercialization and into inevitable strategic partnering or launch.
Except that with a startup or an early stage company, financially, you're not as secure as you might be with one of those massive companies.
That is true. I mean, you're your own destiny. And the ability here is to be able to be comfortable with that, comfortable to be strategic enough to have a sufficient amount of funding to get you to the next milestone. And there's a bit of a beauty in that. There's a bit of you need to make it happen.
I know the feeling.
You can get very nestled and very comfortable, and maybe that's not so much fun. There's a bit of a niceness about having to strive and keep striving every day to make sure you can meet that next milestone. And there's a beauty in that I quite enjoy.
And why Avita Medical?
Great question. Yes. I mean, I had been looking at a number of startups, and I'd love to mention Paula Newell. She was absolutely formidable. She was a fantastic founder. Just to give a little bit of a history, I suppose, as to why I chose Avita Medical, it was really down to Paula. She was an occupational therapist in the HSC, and she's gone into management levels of HSC, and then she decided to make the jump into startup through the BioInnovate Fellowship that was executed in NUIG, which is affiliated with the Stanford Biodesign. And the output of that was a fantastic unmet need. And when Paula reached out to ourselves, we had mutually kind of met. And when we went through the size of the market, the technology that she had developed in terms of the concept of the technology, it felt attainable. It felt attainable in terms of technology, coupled or compounded with a fantastic market. And it ticked all the right boxes for me in terms of attainability and something that we could, as a group, get to market.
Well, there's a little bit of mystery in what you're talking about, because you haven't actually told us what Avita is doing.
Yes, so the user need here is a condition that impacts 1.1 billion women globally. So this is women that move into menopause or post-menopause, as it's known, where the estrogen levels secreted from the ovaries drops to low to none being produced. And the impact of that basically is that the genital area basically becomes lack of blood supply. The body essentially forgets about that area. And the impact of that is catastrophic, really, for women living with this condition, in terms of impact to their quality of life, impact to their intimacy with their partners, to such a fact that as it progresses, and as you say, a chronic progressive condition, as it progresses, they can actually end up where they can't have intimacy with their partners. So this is what we're doing. There are other treatments out there, whether there's short-term treatments like lubricants and moisturizers, whether there's more long-term treatments like estrogen therapy. But the backdrop of those therapies will be that there's a perceived concern or historical concern about safety and interactions with other medications that women might be on, and the fact that hormone therapy has been used from adolescence right the way through to menopause. So the user need was to have a non-pharma, non-hormonal solution where women could have an option to decide for themselves whether they would want to continue with the pharma treatment or another non-hormonal treatment. So this is where we fit, is to be able to offer that other option for women to have a choice and to be a master of their own treatment options.
Now, to create a new kettle or a new bucket is one thing. To create a new medtech device is fraught. I mean, the jumps that you have gone through, the amount of time that it takes, the numbers of checks and balances, all with good reason. Talk to me about how difficult that path is. It
starts with a huge mountain of unknown. And really, with the technique here we're using is trying to chip away at that mountain and mitigate those unknowns. So it starts from a concept, a belief of using literature review and understanding of this has happened and this has been positive in treatment X, and could it be ported over to treatment Y? So that goes from a literature review into benchtop testing, into animal testing, which we've done for this product. You're getting the right vectors of benefit from all of that testing. It gives you the ability and the due diligence to allow to get approval into a clinical trial. And again, you're just step-toeing in because you don't want to bite off more than you can chew, so to speak. So we had done a first-in-human clinical trial, which is a 12-patient trial, sizable enough to get an indication of success, but not too big where you're kind of impacting a patient's safety if there was something that you uncovered that was not safe in the product. Thankfully, the outcome of all of that due diligence and execution was that our 12-subject trial had fantastic efficacy results. We're actually still getting follow-up from those patients and excellent safety. So from a safety perspective, which is really where the FDA are concerned, you need to build out your evidence of safety, build out your evidence of efficacy, and then that allows you then move on to a larger trial, which will be what we're ready to do now in September. So just to speak to that a little bit, if I can, Conal, is we had 12 patients and we have had a 1-month follow-up where all patients had benefit. We've also had 10 months post the treatment where 9 patients have come back right now, and all of those patients have had continued benefit. And we'll be following on as well to go to 12-month data in terms of the benefit and the safety. So all in all, we have stacked up that body of evidence to show that our product is not only safe, no side effects, no pain, no anesthesia needed, but also that it has benefit for the patients.
1.1 billion potential patients or subjects. You call them subjects. Is there a reason why you didn't say patients?
Indeed. We call them subjects when you're talking about clinical trials, but we talk patients when you're talking about the cohort of people, that patients and women that will benefit from this. So it's ported over from clinical trials vocabulary, Conal.
So the cash, this is the reason that you're in business is to make a profit. Yes. Profit may be a while out because in this instance, you actually don't need to sell the product initially. Is that right? It's about jumping those hoops and the value of the company goes up.
Indeed, yeah. So we're in the development R&D phase of the project, and then you move into commercialization level of the project. But like you say, it's all about building value and valuation of the business. So when we do the first in human trial, we get a valuation based on the evidence that you produced and the mitigating of the risks. You do your pilot trial, which is our next trial will be a 54-patient trial. That will be broken into 36 active patients and 18 non-active or placebo, as they call it. The reason we've done this is to categorically show that this product can give benefit over what they call placebo or control. And that's basically a subset of a larger pivotal trial. But what we expect is that once we have the data and we analyse that and it shows the same positive outputs that we've got from the current 12-patient data, that our valuation will increase 5 or 10x from where we are now.
5 or 10x, that is some jump.
Yes, as I say, it's really built on the fact that you're mitigating risks. As you build up your portfolio, your IP, your clinical trial data, your commercialization plan, that all adds value, which increases the value of the business.
So you are raising money to get to that point. So what do you do with all that money?
Yeah, so it's a stepstone. We're taking the next step, which is funding the clinical trial, which is a 54-patient trial. And that's a huge majority of that money will be to fund that trial. In parallel, then, it's to continue the development of the commercialization product. So what we have at the moment is a product that has all the functional features that we can do from a clinical trial perspective. In parallel, then, you're looking at stripping out costs. So making sure the product has sufficient margin that can give the return on investment to a potential strategic that commercialize the product, that they have, as I say, return on investment, and they have good margin on that product for future sales. And you went down the crowdfunding route. Why? Indeed. I mean, this is a product that is going to be used and benefit the average person, as I say, 1.1 billion women. So the crowdfunding allowed for that cohort and a larger cohort of private members of public to allow to get behind Avita Medical. So it's a fantastic forum for a early phase company kind of trying to build the level of funding that we are trying to build, in an efficient way. So again, our goal here is to be as efficient and capital efficient as possible, time efficient, get to market as fast as we can. And this was a fantastic platform for us to engage, as I say, a company that had been funded to date from a European Innovation Council. We had a 2.5 million funding from the European Innovation Council, which just catapulted us from being able to go from concept to clinical trials. But it's to capitalise on that now to get to the next stepping stone or milestone with a concise level of funding. And Spark funding was the right answer for that. And I know that there are no guarantees with early stage companies, but I did hear you say very clearly 10x. Now, you're not going to get that in your bank. So 1,000 quid in, I could be taking 10,000 quid out. Over what period? Yes, I mean, as I say, you're moving from, it's like everything else. What are people willing to pay for? So the next round we're going to be going into is venture capitalist round, and your price point can be done a number of ways, but the most accurate way really is what is a VC willing to invest as a what they call pre-money valuation. So for that investment, so that is really where we're looking at, is to, like I mentioned, build up the IP. We've already got IP filed. We're working through getting that actually converted into granted. We have mitigated a lot of risks in that, get a really broad patent on this technology. Everything we do is to try and have, as much as you can, 100% value add into the business value. And that what we see is this design of this next trial is to maximize the value add of the business in terms of value. And we believe that this next trial can get us to a significant jump on valuation. And what that trial does is it opens up the ability for us to do an MDR or a European approval for market release in Europe. And then our next following trial then will allow us to open up the US market for what they call FDA market approval. They're the two stepping stones we have next.
And if I put my £1,000 in, when can I get my 10,000 quid out?
So there's a number of ways that can happen, but the most obvious one is when we get to commercialization and a strategic partner acquires our business, then that transaction would release the funds to the shareholders.
2 years, 3 years, 4 years, how many?
We're looking at around 2.5 years, 3 years right now.
Okay, so quite exciting. And the team is still small, is it, or is it growing?
The team is growing at an appropriate rate. Again, our focus is on efficiency. The beauty of our company is the technology is quite a simple technology, very effective but simple. So we don't need tens and 50s of engineers trying to mitigate risks and understand unknowns. We have broke that down because of the kind of keep it simple, stupid type technology, if I may call it that. It's a simple technology. We understand how it's going to work. We've already mitigated the benefit of how it works in the cohort of 12 patients. So in terms of the R&D, we have more to do, but we have mitigated a lot of the unknowns there. So our team is a team of 5 right now, and the area we will be bolstering in the future will be the commercialization level. So we've been fortunate now to build up a board of directors, a formidable board of directors, with Eileen Duffy, who is our commercial lead from a board and advisor perspective. We have Karen Noblet, who has a fantastic background. I'll break into that in a little bit more in a second. And then we have Jane Kiernan. So when I mention what these board directors have done in their past, you will see that we're well on track to break through the barriers of commercialization, given the fact that they have a track record of that.
And the American market is the big one, is it?
The American market is the big one, yes. So the American market is what we would see from America to Europe is a 60-40 split. But yeah, the American market is an understood market. The mechanism to get to commercial approval through the regulatory bodies is a well understood mechanism to execute. And we have a good regulatory team through Annette Stagnant. So she has done many projects with OBGYN or the gynae component of FDA. So yes, it's the market we're after. It's the right market to go for first. And we have the right team to integrate that market.
And you've run your Excel sheet because you're an engineer. How big, what's it worth, the actual market in value?
Yeah, the full market in terms of there's 75 million women in US at the moment. And what we're looking for is the attainable market for us, as in terms of our first, if I break it down, 75 million women in the US market, 80% of them will have vaginal atrophy or GSM. Forgive me, I'm going to give the GSM notation whiz here because it's the genital urinary syndrome of menopause. That's the new name for this condition. So you have 80% of the women will have GSM, 37% of them will go for clinical therapies, and basically what we're left with is 2 million women out of that really have no other option. And that converts to a $2.5 billion business at the ground level in terms of low-hanging fruit, so to speak. And then you start infiltrating through further clinical evidence, through adoption, you will start integrating into kind of converting a large portion of that 75 million women.
For you, it's a good news because it's not an issue that will go away. It does affect, as you say, almost all postmenopausal women, and that is a continuing cohort coming through.
So to put numbers on that, 6,000 women in the US every day move into postmenopause. That converts to 2 million women a year. So this is a large growing market of about 7.2 CAGR. So in all elements of this, in terms of the ability to bring out a product that benefits half the population in terms of 80% will get to this stage at some stage in their life. Also in terms of financial for investors, you're ticking a lot of boxes here in terms of benefit for this product.
Okay, and the Spark crowdfunding campaign is ending very, very soon. So if anybody wants to have a look at it, Spark crowdfunding, is that right?
That is correct. Yes, and you'll see us on Vita Medical, and you'll see that ramping up significantly. So get in quick, as they say.
While stocks last, AVETA Medical is the company. There is one final question we ask everybody, Brian. Who would you hire in a heartbeat?
I would have to say the CEO of Bayer, the buyer, Sebastian Gut. And the reason I say this is the size of this population, and our strategy for going to commercialization is that we partner with a large organization that has the infrastructure to bring this to the masses. So if I was to bring on someone right now, it would be Sebastian Gut. So in terms of allowing us to accelerate that launch plan into the US market and European market.
And not that I know anything at all about it, but is Bayer in that business already or in that market?
Yeah, so Bayer would be a pharmaceutical company, and they would have...
we'd recognise the name there, all right. They made aspirins when we people were kids, yeah. But is it in the, like you're now talking about med tech, you're talking about a product.
Exactly. And this company, Bayer, in terms of what we've known to date, is Bayer are looking into this non-hormonal therapy. They've already acquired a company called Candy, which is a non-hormonal therapy for vasomotor, or the hot flashes and hot flushes. And the benefit for this for us is that when you have a non-hormonal treatment for the perimenopause and early postmenopause, you will need a non-hormonal offering for when you transition into the GSM. So Vita Medical will be here standing with the solution. So I think we'll be benefiting the likes of Bayer with our solution to be allow them to continue the continuum of non-hormonal treatment.
I love business because 20 years ago, however long ago you were training, did you ever imagine that you'd be talking and working in the menopausal area, the huge, massive market, and hopefully making a difference?
Indeed, I did not. And even at 20 years ago, I don't think the word menopause was widely spoken, but thankfully the taboo has been shattered and women are being open with this wording and being more knowledgeable. So this is all tailwinds for this company, but absolutely no. I think 20 years ago, definitely not. I hadn't got this visibility, but that's where it goes. You know, you take directions, you jump and you see where you land and make it work.
And that is Brian Ledwith. He is CEO at Vita Medical. And thank you so much, Brian, for joining us on That Great Business Show.
Thanks so much, Colin. Pleasure. Enjoyed it.
De facto, the revolutionary shaving oil, changing the face of shaving. For the smoothest shave of your life, just add water. No more lathering up or cleaning up afterward. Just add a few drops of water and you're ready to go. De facto's blend of all natural oils hydrates and protects your skin. Perfect for all skin types and lasts so much longer than traditional foams or gels. De facto, a shaving revolution. Just add water. Available from selected pharmacies and from defactoshave.com.
It's all go like Chrissy Gno on thatgreatbusinessshow.com. That Great Business Show.
And that's it for episode 201 of That Great Business Show. Great business insights and inspiration, as always. Maxall, a family-owned business for over 100 years, do advertise with us so that you can get the best tips and insights for your business. So do return them the favour and sign up for their fuel card. It is great for your business. And sign up for your own personal copy of the podcast at thatgreatbusinessshow.com. Share, like, and give us 5-star reviews. It really does help. And of course, like you, we're in business, so advertise with us. If there are topics you want us to cover, contact us anytime on LinkedIn, where we have our ever-growing community. And a huge thanks, as always, to Lee Brennan for his spit and polish on the sound buttons, and later studio manager Peter Rice and post-production engineer Neil Horner turn us up to 11 to ensure we remain the world's best-sounding business podcast. So for me, Conal Moran, buchas to you all, agus slán tamil.